Now welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Horse Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Today we're going to talk about the Acolyte and how it will be the darkest and most adult Star Wars content produced, according to some sources. Yeah, I found that on Twitter.
Who are the sources?
It doesn't say, they're just some.
Oh, just sources?
Some sources.
Okay.
AKA, does this make you want to watch it?
No.
Darkest, most adult.
Like,
what does that mean?
Well, I mean,
when you call something most adult, there's a lot of ways that you could be taken.
Yes, exactly. Why I think that's kind of a funny way to put it. Even though, yes, we can separate the other kind of adult, and it means in this context that it's not so much for children.
Right. It means it might be handling themes and concepts that are harder for children to grasp, most likely.
Well, yeah, that it's something you don't usually show children.
Yeah.
You know, they're not kind of going to understand it the same way an adult would.
Mm-hmm. Well, we know that the trailer that leaked for the Acolyte that we didn't get to see was the same one that was at Celebration, and I'm surprised that they haven't... I'm sorry, I'm still sick. My voice is cracking.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that Star Wars hasn't just given up and gone, okay, it's pretty much out there, just put it out.
I think the problem is next up is supposed to be Skeleton Crew, so it'd be confusing to put that out there, and most people will have never seen it. Like, it's only like Star Wars fans that are going to have seen it at this point, so it's not really like it's harming anything, if you will, for it to be.
Or is it?
Well, you know what I'm saying. It's not like the average person. It's not like it leaked somewhere where everybody saw it and is like, oh, so that's the next show. It leaked somewhere where, you know, people are going to understand this is not the next show. This wasn't supposed to be out there.
Well, we got a couple of lines of dialogue I'm curious about your take on. One of the featured lines comes from someone who we might consider a bad guy in the show. We don't know. But the quote is, "This isn't about good or bad. It's about power and who's allowed to use it."
That needs context.
It does need context.
To be understood.
Well, I don't think it would be a Jedi saying that. I think it's somebody who we're going to perceive, because there's supposed to be a bunch of dark side people-y types in this.
Sure, yeah.
I think this is going to be from somebody who wasn't... Because we heard some leaks about the premise of the story being like a set of siblings. One of them is good enough and taken by the Jedi to be trained. The other one is left behind because they're not, I'm making air quotes, good enough.
Yeah, I'm going to leave Sabine out of this. Okay.
Yeah, so Sabine got left behind.
Yeah.
And Ezra got taken with.
Okay, yep, because Ezra had more natural potential.
Right. This is the character that I believe is coming back and snapping back at a Jedi that, you know what? This isn't about being good or bad. It's about power and who's allowed to use it.
Well, here's the thing about this line, because I've seen a lot of people quoting it and getting very upset about it, which, hey, you do you. And we know Star Wars is about kind of good versus evil, right? Yes. That's kind of the core of it all.
Yes, it is.
But that doesn't mean every character in Star Wars is going to believe that, if that makes sense. Just because a character says that doesn't mean that the show itself won't kind of focus on good versus evil. And I'm not neither trying to defend nor attack here. I haven't seen the show yet. Certainly heard a lot about it from some of the people involved, right? And it's not all good.
I've got a lot of those quotes that we were going to go over.
Okay.
Because those are factual stuff.
My point is, there was a story, I think it was from a certain point of view, from a New Hope, a certain point of view, those books that come out and kind of tell stories along, and someone in the book quotes that, you know, oh, Luke Skywalker only fired the shot, it was Jyn Erso that was the hero, or something along those lines. A lot of people got really upset, but that's an opinion of someone in the story, and sure, it may be that the author of that story was trying to make a point as well, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Well, and you can look at it in multiple facets. Could Luke have made the shot without getting the schematics? No. But Jyn probably couldn't have made the shot. Luke could.
There you go. That's an excellent point. They needed each other, right? One helped the other.
The whole thing doesn't succeed without every working cog.
Yeah. So my point is simply that because a character, and granted, it says in a trailer, so that kind of, when it's said in a trailer, that is different than a random line in an episode, right? This kind of does imply that the show is going to maybe lean into this. I get that. I'm not here to attack or defend. I'm trying to play, I guess, a devil's advocate, because I've seen a lot of people mad about this. It doesn't mean that the show is going to lean into this. It probably will, because it gets said in the trailer. But again, characters in a show can have an attitude or a belief that conflicts with the overall theme or message of the show, or even the entire Star Wars premise, if you will.
That line of dialogue in the trailer kind of looks like it almost works with some of the things Leslie Headland has said.
Certainly.
In interviews, kind of emphasizing that she wanted to, like, mirror some current day politics.
Yep.
And some intersectional feminist theory.
Okay. Star Wars is perfect for that. Sarcasm.
Yes. There's another line that is said in the trailer that's interesting. Your eyes can deceive you. You must not trust them. The Force is powerful. It is power we must respect.
Well, that makes sense, right?
It does, but it very
though the Force
much
isn't like
goes
power.
against things like Yoda told Luke later how the Force is your ally.
Well, yeah.
Even Chirrut, I am one with the Force is with me. This is them saying the Force is powerful and we respect power.
Okay, well, I guess when you put it that way. Maybe I didn't listen closely enough.
It's just an interesting line, especially when you pair it up with the other one. It's about power and who's allowed to use it.
Well, my fear all along with this show, to kind of skew away from trying to be neutral, I guess, is that it will paint the Jedi in an extremely bad light.
Which it almost needs to, because we know the Jedi fall.
We know the Jedi fall, but that doesn't mean... There's a difference between the idea that the Jedi themselves have been flawed all along and the fact that the Jedi of the prequel era that we see in those films have lost their way or gone astray.
But this doesn't sound like it's going to show us where they went astray. This looks like it might take place after they've started going astray.
Well, in the High Republic era of books, it's kind of implying that you can see the Jedi are becoming kind of more proactive. They're kind of trying to go out in the galaxy and they're putting up a beacon of light and they want to be, they want to be really out there front and center. And I don't really think that's how the Jedi are supposed to do things. They're kind of quietly in the background doing what must be done is kind of how I've always, seen them. So, and then when we get to the prequels, you see, well, they're basically just the pawns of the Senate. They're the pawns of the Republic at that point. Well, not pawns, I shouldn't use that word, but they're certainly like a branch of the Republic, they feel like. That they follow the will of the Republic over the will of the Force. I've said that a million times in videos. My fear, though, with this particular show and the things we've heard said about it is that, again, it is going to imply that the Jedi way has been flawed for 25,000 years, right? 1,000 generations, the Jedi have been the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. This, I'm afraid, is going to say, you know what? They've been wrong all along. We just never really realized how bad they were. And so now it's going to say, well, see, in the prequels, when they fall, that's actually a good thing. Instead of something that should be kind of looked at as like, well, what went wrong?
Exactly. It should be seen as a cautionary tale as to what was so wrong that corrupted the Jedi, that they fell.
Exactly.
That this happened when they're supposed to be a paragon of good.
Exactly. Like, I don't think Lucas's intent at all was to say the Jedi have been bad all along. It's a cautionary tale. You said it extremely well there. That, like, what went wrong that this paragon of good, that this thing that is all for, peace and harmony in the galaxy, where did they go wrong? How did that become corrupt? Like, it's a lesson that evil can corrupt anything, right? And you always have to be vigilant.
That kind of sounds like something Headland said. She said, what I think is so interesting right now is that everybody thinks they're right. And she's talking about the era that her show is set in.
Okay.
The Jedi really think they're right. And George Lucas tells us that they're wrong in Phantom. They missed a huge aspect of the dark side rising, and that just felt like fertile ground to look into what's going on for all of us right now.
I don't know that it needs to be related to what's going on right now, because I don't really think it is.
No,
a exactly. 1-to-1 or even close to it. Like, right now the problem is, if I'm going to dip into politics, just dip my pinky toe in there for a moment, like, people just refuse to cooperate, right? Mm-hmm. We have basically two sides that just think the other side are the Sith and I'm the Jedi. That's basically where we're at in politics today. Yes. And so I don't know that that's what went wrong with the Jedi, right? The Jedi, I don't think anybody in the galaxy thought the Jedi were, I'm just sure, some. But the average person in the galaxy probably thought the Jedi were the good guys. They're helping the Republic. They probably didn't really have an issue with them. They didn't really see them. They heard stories about them, and they're just good, right? So I don't think that it really relates to what's going on today.
I can agree with that. One other thing that she has said is, just because my show is technically, yes, female-centric, meaning it centers around a female protagonist, I don't think that necessarily excludes men from that space. Listen, I relate to male characters all the time. Like, I root for Mando. Like, I root for Luke. I like deeply, well, not sure how much I care about Han Solo anymore. When I was little, I really liked him. When I watch him now, I'm kind of like, gosh, a lot of my psyche makes sense now. Okay. But all joking aside, I think that an inclusive space means an inclusive space. But at the same time, I think that just because something has a female protagonist doesn't mean it's only meant for women.
Well, of course not.
Right.
I mean,
well, I know that the one thing that she has been attacked about is by calling it a female-centric show. She's trying to say that its main character is a female, not that it is excluding men.
well, it shouldn't. That would be stupid considering a vast majority of the Star Wars fan base.
Yeah.
I mean, that's no offense to obviously
not
you
to mention,
or
as a female fan, I don't shy. I'm not unhappy with having
I know you
males
are, yeah.
in the story, especially
You would-
good-looking ones. Ha ha ha.
Thanks. But no, I mean, of course you're not, because Star Wars is... Look, Lucas made it for 12-year-old boys. He's said that many, many times. He's never been shy about saying that. It's more geared towards boys. It's a more of a male fantasy, right? Which is not a bad thing. Doesn't mean women can't love it, too. That's fine.
And then Princess Leia shows up with a blaster and takes names.
Well, yeah, she's awesome in that. Like,
She is.
she's, we've talked about that before as well. She's kind of like the first, even though she's not the first, she's like the first kind of, strong female character that's ever in cinema, even though, again, she's not. But she is kind of thought of as that first. And no, I've never heard of a guy who's ever had problems with Princess Leia, ever. Nobody, they might not want to pretend they're her. They might want to pretend they're Luke or Han, but no one's ever had a problem with Leia in Star Wars.
No.
So just hearing this is like, well, duh, it should be for boys too, because why would you make a Star Wars and just kind of exclude someone? Even though, yeah, originally I don't think Lucas was thinking girls necessarily for Star Wars, but it turned out it was for everyone, so let's keep that trend going, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Acolyte. I'm really excited to see kind of the High Republic put up on the screen past just what I've read in the novels, and I haven't read them all.
No, I've read them all, and I've talked about that too. They're hit and miss.
Hit and miss. I haven't read like the Phase 1, but I read some of the Phase 2, which takes place before Phase 1.
Yeah, Phase 2 is not as good as Phase 1. Phase
Good,
2 is
so I read the not as good parts.
I'm assuming when we get to Phase 3, which is like kicking off, like that Phase 2 is going to be relevant, because Phase 3 is set after Phase 1 chronologically, so I don't know. It's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, why did we do Phase 2?
Well, here's a reminder what the official description of the series is for The Acolyte. The Acolyte is a mystery thriller that will take viewers into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated. Bum bum bum.
Yeah, it's the Sith working behind the shadows is my assumption there. Which, as I've talked about, we can't really have Jedi and Sith encountering each other. I'm glad you bring up that book, because for me that is what the prelude to The Phantom Menace is and should be. The Plagueis novel is fantastic. And so this seems like it's kind of retreading some of that ground, which I don't know that it needs to do that.
No, but I'm interested to see what they do, because this show has a lot of controversy going on around it.
Oh, certainly.
And so that means it has to do an even better job to impress.
Well,
it's got things going against it already.
Let's be real. There's for some out there, for better or worse, it doesn't matter what the show. The show could be phenomenal, and they're still gonna not like it because of Leslie Headland or whatever else. Which, hey, that's your prerogative. You do you. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna tell you what I actually think about it. I'm gonna set aside any problems I've had with anything said about this or my preconceived notions on what this might be. I'm gonna watch it. We'll see what it's like, and I'll give you my honest opinion, good or bad. And for now, that's all we got for you this time. So now it's your turn. Take to the comments below and tell me how you're feeling about The Acolyte, or what you feel about anything that was said, or what Leslie Headland or others have said about the show, or some of the quotes taken from the trailer, whatever we talked about here in the video. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.